Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Cranky Pundit podcast. I'm your host, Mike Morgan, the Cranky Pundit. And today's episode, guys, I'm going to go through the 5 worst fan bases in Premier League history. Now, I say Premier League history. I'm not going to go back to Swindon Town and Oldham because I'm too young. I'm too young and pretty to remember those days. So I'm just going to go off the teams that I've lived through that just have the worst fan base, can't sell out their stadium, their fans annoy me, do they have any fans? All that kind of stuff. Now, I've only been to a handful of Premier League stadiums myself. Obviously, I've been to Anfield. You can get different atmospheres at Anfield. If you go to a 3 o'clock game against Brentford, it's not going to be great. You're just going to have the other fans singing, "Where's your famous atmosphere?" Even though this is the greatest atmosphere they've ever lived through. And also, you can go to a Champions League night or a game against Man City or Man United. I've been to those, and I've never been to anything like it in some of those cases, you know. I've been to St. James's Park, terrific atmosphere. I've been to the Stadium of Light in Sunderland, amazing atmosphere. When the chips are up, when the chips are down, not great fans to be showing up. We're all taken away by their Sunderland documentary, Sunderland Till I Die, and we all got into Sunderland. But let's be honest, in the days there where they were like, you know, needed their fans there in the Premier League to stay up, sometimes you'd see empty stadiums, so I'd be a bit sus about Sunderland, alright. I've been to Watford. I thought they were shit enough atmosphere, but I didn't expect there to be a good atmosphere in Watford. Been to a couple of other stadiums as well, and look, I'll just be going off my own vibes and what I felt there, and maybe if I didn't go to the stadium, what I feel when I watch the TV or online, anything like that, I've included them. Now, there has been loads of teams in the Premier League, maybe some of us that don't remember. I'll just list out a few from back in the day. So Swindon, Blackpool have been there, Barnsley have been there, Cardiff, Oldham, Huddersfield, Bradford, Brentford, Reading, Hull, Ipswich, Sheffield United, Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, Brighton, QPR, Birmingham, Derby, Swansea, Portsmouth, Watford, Charlton, Wimbledon, Wigan, Sheffield Wednesday, Burnley, Wolves, Coventry, Norwich, Stoke, Bolton, West Brom, obviously West Ham, Crystal Palace, Middlesbrough, Leeds, Sunderland, Fulham, Leicester, Blackburn Rovers, Southampton, Man City, West Ham, Newcastle, Aston Villa, Tottenham, Manchester United, Liverpool, Everton, Chelsea, Arsenal. That's who've been in the Premier League. So, yeah, I'm just going to go off vibes that I think and I can remember through my lifetime. So we're going to start it off in no particular order. I just think they're all poor fan bases. So number 5 on my list is Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough being in the Premier League always annoys me. I know that Michael Carrick is their manager or was their manager last year and everybody wanted him to get promoted. I did not want them to get promoted. I think they're wasted on the Premier League. The Riverside looks like a lovely stadium and you never sell it out. I remember even being like 4 or 5, right? Cast your eyes back to the 96-97 season, right? And like Middlesbrough, like there's no reason for you not to show up to the stadium, right? You have players, 2 centre mids, Janino, Brazilian, about to win the World Cup, Emerson, another Brazilian international starting centre mid. You have a new striker up front, right? And his name is Fabrizio Ravanelli, grey-haired striker, tore it up in Serie A. Italy international, like you know. And it's the first game of the season. It's against Liverpool, and it's a 3-3 draw. Your new striker, Ravanelli, scores a hat-trick. 2 of them were penalties, right? But he scores a hat-trick, and there's fuck all people there to see him. What is that about? Like, what more excuses do you need to come and see your home team play? 2 Brazilian centre mid and an Italian fella up front, and you're from Middlesbrough, you know? And you can't sell out their stadium. I always remember looking at it going, why? Even as a child, I'm like, why is there empty seats? Even come and watch Liverpool, like, you know? I always thought it was a joke. And even recently, when they came into the Premier League, I wasn't happy with them. Not with them, I couldn't give a shit about them. But, like, do you know, when they have Adama Traore, Gaston Ramirez, and they never sold their stadium out. Like, ever. You're back in the Premier League. No, like, your fans, like, your team needs you. Like, every year you come up into the Premier League, it's going to be hard. And they went down without a whimper. And, yeah, they can stay down for all I care. Can't even sell your stadium out. I don't know. No time for Middlesbrough. They got the breaks as well. They got the breaks. I feel if they got the breaks, if other teams got the breaks they did, like attracting Brian Robson and to be your manager who can then attract Brazilians to come and play for you, you have no excuse and you should be selling out your stadium all the time. So the next up then, I'm going for Charlton Athletic. The worst fans in history for the sole reason that Alan Kirbishley was their manager. He was finishing 7th in the league, like close enough to getting him into Europe at the time. And the fans were like, Kirbishley out. They were like, we don't want him. We deserve to be finishing higher than 7th in the league. Charlton Athletic. He got you to 7th and you wanted him out. Well, then you got rid of him. And as I've often said on this podcast, and the worst decision in football history was getting rid of Alan Curbishley. They had like Darren Bent. I remember they had Darren Bent and Marcus Bent at one point. 2 Bent strikers, I remember. Not as that is like homophobic as in Bent as in like they can't kick the ball. Even though Darren Bent did cause wreck for him. What kind of players did they have? Did they have Tunchai? They had Paulo Di Canio for a short period. They had... Digimi Traore, Champions League winner with us. They had that keeper that's a bit of a journeyman. What's his name? Kelly? Look, I don't know. But anyway, Alan Curbishley finished 7th with him. And the fans wanted him out. The fans got him out anyway. And I've never heard or seen of Charlton since. Again, the Valley was their stadium. Not a great stadium, but they still couldn't sell it out. Even though it's right next to London, Charlton Athletic. You have a massive catchment area. So yeah, Charlton Athletic are next on my list. Up next then, I'm going to go for a bit harsh, but I'm going to go for the same reasons. Huddersfield Town and Wigan are my joint. Look at 6, but these guys for the same reasons, okay? Their stadium is far too big for the club. They're both rugby towns. They love rugby league. Huddersfield and Wigan, they love that stuff. So when Wigan were in the Premier League, they had a decent team, stayed up there for a good time, a sticky team to be playing against. They had your man, the Egyptian guy, Saki, the biggest half-season wonder. They had Chimbanda at right back. They had Jimmy Bullard. They had, who else did they have? Leighton Baines. They had a good few players, household names that you'd know. And they stayed in the Premier League for a couple of years, but their stadium always looked just empty, a skeleton stadium. Same with Huddersfield when they came up. They survived for 1 season, so they came up for 2 seasons. Again, they're rugby towns, and that's the reason why they're in here. I just feel, look, Huddersfield might get 15 to 20,000 at their stadium every week, which is great attendance, more than Blackpool could fit in their stadium, more than Bournemouth can in the Vitality, but it just looks bare. Even as a comedian, when I do stand-up comedy, like, do you know, I've done gigs in front of 30 people, but it's been in a little room in a bar, and the atmosphere was absolutely exceptional. And I've done gigs in front of 200 people, but the place seats 500, and the atmosphere is just a skeleton. Like, do you know, it's not. So full rooms is what you need. Obviously, they're trying to sell as many tickets as they can. They're not trying to create an atmosphere for comedy, so they obviously just want to sell the tickets. So, but for the same reason, I don't like Huddersfield or Wigan in the Premier League. For that reason alone, I just think they're rugby towns, their stadium is too big, and I don't like watching their games, really, to be honest with you. We'll move on to the next one. They were joint 3rd on my list, so we'll go to the second last one. I'm going to go for Hull City. Now, it's not all Hull City's fault. Their owner's a twat that would turn you off going to the stadium, but Hull City, I think they were the only city left in England not to have a Premier League team when they eventually played in, was it the 07 or the 08-09 season? I remember they had a Brazilian fella called Giovanni who scored a couple of thunder bastards against Tottenham and Arsenal, I believe. He scored a couple of decent goals. They had Kevin Kilbane. They had in the first time they came up, they had Kevin Kilbane. They had Stephen Hunt. I believe they also had Jimmy Bullard. But then in recent times, then they had the likes of Andy Robertson, Maguire, other players like that were decent enough players. So Hull City just didn't like him in the Premier League. Of course, their owner turned a lot of the fans off by increasing ticket prices, by trying to change the name of the team to the Hull Tigers. So if I was living there, I'd stop going as well. It's a bunch of shit football, and the owner's charging double of what the ticket is actually worth, and he doesn't actually feel good. So I'm actually going to vote with my feet by not going to the games, is what I would be thinking. So maybe a bit harsh, including Hull City inside there. But again, the quarter of their stadium is full. The fact that they were the last city in England to go actually compete and get a Premier League space is just shit enough, like, do you know what I mean? So we've gone through Charlton, we've gone through Hull City, we've gone through Wigan Athletic, we've gone through Huddersfield, we've gone through Middlesbrough. Now a couple of I was thinking Reading at the Medeski Stadium. I just can always see that. You know it's bad when you can see the outline of the sponsor in the stadium. Do you know, there's so many empty seats. But because they were so good to the Irish, I'm going to leave them out. And I'm going to put in maybe a bit of surprise packet. Not because they're always empty seats, because it seems to always be full. At least 80% full. They're a good team. I enjoy watching them. I just think their fans are shit, and they can't come up with their own chants. It's just a dead atmosphere at all their games. I'm going for Wolves, guys. Yeah, look, a bit of a debate, but I'm going for Wolves. I love them. I have a Jaumentinho jersey here up on the wall. Love Ruben Neves, love Neto, Podence, love their managers that they have, their style of football, the way they can beat other teams, like teams that are better than them. I really love them. But their fans, guys, they can't make up their own songs, like, do you know? Like, I remember they had a cringe-worthy one there about Ruben Neves. Like, it's like, please don't take Neves. Please don't take Neves. I just don't think you'll understand. Something about breaking my heart. It was like half the fans were singing it. Other ones were like not singing it. It's like, lads, you've had this guy at your club for like 8 years. He's amazing. Would you come up with a good song? All their songs are just carbon copies of other songs. And yeah, I just don't like them. I don't like watching games at Wolves Stadium. I just think their fan base is shit. And not that there's always empty seats, but yeah, I just don't like their stadium. Poor atmosphere, and their team and the way they're managed and the way they play deserve better. And they kind of turned on them there last year as well when the chips were down. When in my opinion that team owes you nothing. They've given you absolutely brilliant players and brilliant nights in the last few years. And the one time they're down and there's a hint of relegation, you're not there for them. Like, I just didn't like that about the Wolves fans this year. Now, people might be surprised that I didn't include Man City. Of course, Man City for obvious reasons, even though the stats will say they sell out their stadium all the time, but they give it away. They give away free tickets in the city centre and in colleges. In the University of Manchester, they give away free tickets. I just don't like them. Tottenham. Actually, guys, Tottenham have a decent stadium, and in fairness to their fans, I think their fans are better than their team. Their team I wouldn't support Spurs in a month of Sundays, but the way they actually, just stand behind their team anyway, putting up with that shit for the last 50 to 100 years, like, and getting nothing. Yet they still now have a good stadium and sell it out all the time, so I didn't include them for that reason. They're the teams, guys. So Middlesbrough, Wolves, Huddersfield, Wigan, Reading, Hull and Charlton. Middlesbrough, did I mention them? Anyway, all those teams, poor fan bases. I've named out all the teams that were ever in the Premier League as well. But in my opinion, they're the worst fan bases. Let me know if you think different, or honourable mentions also to Bolton. Stoke had a windy one as well. There's lots of them. Let's go through a few. Did Derby have good support? Nah, they just had a shit team. Ipswich, Bradford, they were packed out. Small stadium, but they were packed out. Blackpool, same story. Barnsley, same story. Yeah, whatever, guys. They're my list. Let me know if I got anything wrong. Please give it a 5-star review if you're listening to it on Spotify. If you're listening to it on YouTube, please give a like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. Thanks very much for listening, guys. Peace and love, yo. Peace and love.